Then these are technically what I'm doing is called a blind critique because I haven't looked at these before. It's not that I'm blind, hopefully, while I look at them, but it is that, I haven't studied your work. We're going to take a look at it. Everybody on this show is going to see it for the first time along with me. So without further ado, here's the first one. Tell
All
us about
right.
this.
So this is from our good friend Lucian, who is a longtime member of the AYP Club, and he took this in Scotland.
Wow, nice. Okay, Lucian, you've got a beautifully set stage here. You've got leading lines. It's interesting. It reminds me of one of the paintings I used in my book on composition. Example of a canal with buildings on the side of it. So the leading lines are leading beautifully. You've got the clouds, you've got the buildings. There's one thing that I feel is missing, and that's a subject. I don't have a subject. To where should my eye go to? Now, you can cheat. You're not doing documentary photography. Put somebody in that frame. Have somebody walking on the road or somebody riding a bicycle. But put, ideally, a person in there that you have set the stage for. And then you're going to have a fantastic photograph. Go back there if you can. And hey, guys, this kind of goes along with something I wrote about. Don't be afraid to be an active photographer, to be a director. If you're directing a movie, you tell your actors where to go and where to stand. And if you've got somebody with you, Lucian, you could tell them to go stand in the frame. If you don't have somebody, you can do what Mads Iverson does and put it on a tripod and put your self timer on, and you walk into the frame. You be the subject. And that'll just infinitely elevate this, because why? Our eyes want a subject. You want to see, what is this all about? What am I looking at here? So if you can, go back there because you've got a beautiful stage set, and put yourself in the frame if nobody else. Okay, who's next?
All right, the next one is from our friend Mache. He did several autumn photos, and one of them was black and white, and I thought that was an interesting choice, so I thought I would pick that one.
It works. It works really well as a silhouette, and absolutely, I can see why you chose black and white. It's backlit, and that's giving it the kind of the shiny, sparkly around the edges of the leaves, which is pretty cool. And it works. It's a portrait of a tree. So there's the subject. You can take a portrait of anything, as our good friend Camille Seaman talked about. As a Native American, she believes everything is animated with life, and I happen to believe that as well. And especially a tree. There's a majesty and dignity to this tree that you're capturing its portraiture. Now, does it bother me that the arms of the tree, it doesn't have the full spread of the branches? No, it actually doesn't, because you're just like a person. You don't have to show their whole face. There's no rule or law that says you can't just have a portion of a person's face. And in this case, it's the portion of the tree. You've got some nice layering going on with the background and the trees behind it. And overall, that works really well, definitely as a black and white. The only thing I would probably recommend, I don't know how you processed it. I always use Silver Effects Pro. I'd like to see, just a little more strength in the blacks. The great thing about Silver Effects Pro is you actually can see where it lies on the zone system, and you can see if you've got a pure black and a pure white, and you can adjust things accordingly. So I just like to bring it out a little bit more, just a little more punch to get that dynamic range. It's a very minor suggestion because it's working by itself. So good job. All right, who's next?
All right.
And if you guys, while I'm
one.
going through this, and especially if I'm critiquing yours and you have a question or a feedback, or Mark, I don't think that's right, or whatever you want to say, please feel free to do so. By the way, the big difference here, one of the biggest differences between what we're doing and what we do in the AYP plus show is that we can open up our microphones to whoever we're reviewing, and we do that so that they can speak and other members of the audience can speak, and it makes a huge difference. Okay. So, what do we got here?
This is from Nancy, our friend in northern Nevada, although this was taken at Convict Lake in California.
Oh, Convict Lake over by Bishop. Yeah, that's a beautiful spot. I just read a book about that, as a matter of fact. It's called Sierra Phantom. It's about a guy who lived in these mountains for 50 years. 50 years. Can you imagine that? And especially through harsh winters. And I'm very familiar with this. I've done a lot of backpacking all through this region here. So you've got a really well framed. You've got a leading line on the trail here. The mountains are gorgeous, and you have a subject here. It's very tiny, and I almost missed it. Yeah, right there. It would be nice to make that a little more prominent because it can easily get mistaken for maybe a rock or something. I was, as I looked at it, I found the subject, which is basically the leading line. And by the way, that's kind of one of the key tools of using a leading line like this, is to have a subject that your eye goes to, because that's what a leading line does, is it just draws your attention. So if they're walking towards you, I wait a little while and let them come closer into the frame so they're more dominant. If they're walking away from you, wait to find somebody else. You've got to, whenever you go to a scene like this, you've got yourself set. So you just have to wait. And like I said before, you can walk into the frame and be your own subject. But it's a beautiful photograph of Convict Lake. It's got a lot of layers in it. You've got the foreground with the rushes here, and the background and the erosion of the mountains, and then we've got the trail. So, hey, photography is about, a lot of it is about patience and waiting, and if you don't see what you want, make it happen. Walk into the frame, put it on a tripod, find a person and say, would you mind walking into the frame and just turning around when you get to that rock over there? You can direct them. Anyway, there you go. So,
all right.
How could the contrast been improved? Can you offer me anything on the contrast? Well, I don't frankly see that as a huge issue. It looks balanced to me, but if you want to improve contrast, Chris Burkhardt said the last slider he wants to move is the contrast slider, and I have really grown to agree with him on that, and there's better ways of bumping your contrast up. For one thing, I always take the highlights as low as I can get, and I take the shadows up, and that builds contrast right there. You've got your mid-tone contrast sliders, which are clarity, texture, and dehaze. You might benefit by the dehaze slider on this one. There's a little bit of haze in the sky here, so that would probably be the slider that you'd want to, just a little bit up there. And that would punch up the clouds, or rather the blue sky would come out, but be very, very cautious. Do not make big adjustments with either of those sliders, with any of those three sliders. In fact, with most sliders, it's like, and I say this, I'll say it again, it's like seasoning. You do not want to take paprika or chili flakes and just go like this on top. You're going to be disappointed. You want to maybe fleck a little bit of paprika, unless it's garlic, and go to town, man. I'm a big garlic lover. We'll just pound garlic in. But not everybody can tolerate that, so you have to be mindful of what other people, what their taste buds are like. But in this case, make tiny little adjustments with those mid-tone sliders. See what happens. That would be my suggestion there. Okay.
Marc Silber, not a vampire, confirmed.
Oh yeah, boy, I keep the vampire stuff at bay with all my all my garlic eating. All right, so we have a comment here from Ande. I'll just go ahead and post it on there. One suggestion, along with telling a picture it can be better, please also, if possible, tell how it's not good in the first place. This will help us improve our thinking. Well, I do that to some degree, but I don't usually like to say, well, why I think this is bad. I'd really rather, and you can surmise if I say this is what you can do to improve it. I mean, we don't have to go down that negative road. You can just figure it out yourself. If there's some area that could be punched up, then that's the way you do it. That's my style. If you like negative criticism, this probably isn't the place to get it. All right. So who's next?
I think, just speaking as somebody who watches Mark do a lot of critiques, I think he does say areas that you can improve it. He's just, he's not going to do the Gordon Ramsay in American show style.
Yeah, really.
Like, he's more like the British style of Gordon Ramsay. If you've ever seen, in the British shows, he's a lot less confrontational and a lot more gentle with his critiques, but they're still good critiques. It's just a stylistic change.
Yeah.
So
you can figure out what it is. If I think something needs to be improved, then I could also flip it around and say, well, that was keeping it from being what it ought to be. All right.
Speaking of Anand, I think that's how you say your name. Here's his photo that he submitted. So.
Oh, nice, Anand. Well, okay. So this is an interesting photograph. Where are we looking? We don't have to know that in the photograph. I'll give you a strong, okay, since you asked for it, I'll give you a couple of strong points that I think would, I feel like finishing the arc of the boat would really help. It leaves me feeling like I want to see it. So that's just pull back a little bit. Why is that? I don't know. It's completing the geometric design. And the other element, which I've already mentioned, is I think it would be stronger with the subject in that frame. So it's a beautifully, the boat is serving as its own kind of geometric frame. Why not put somebody in it, including yourself? We're kind of on a theme here, and that often happens on these critiques. Pull back a little bit. You've got that interesting red-orange color, which would highlight somebody standing or sitting in the boat. I kind of envision like, hey, again, nobody else is around. Take your tripod with you. Watch our show with Mad Iverson Peterson, and he makes beautiful photographs, but he's always in the frame. It's that little touch that's going to make a huge difference. The other thing, just processing, I would bring those clouds out. And again, your dehaze slider would help you with that. So there you go. I'm not going to say those are negative points. I'm just saying those are points that I believe you could work on that would elevate it. Please subscribe and enable the bell so you don't miss any of our new shows. Like the video and please share it and leave your comments. I love hearing from you. And remember to get out and capture your own images of life.